Am I saying that?
Hi.
Is that the correct way to say your last name, Duhigg?
It is, yeah, Duhigg.
Perfect. All right, great. Thank you. Sorry, we haven't formally started broadcasting out. We were just waiting for a couple of technical difficulties. So I think we are about there. Jane, you want to go ahead and start our countdown?
Yes, I will. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8.
Good evening and welcome to the Rancho Public Schools virtual legislative priorities meeting. We'd like to welcome everyone who is joining us tonight virtually. Usually we get to have a wonderful dinner and shake hands and rub shoulders, and along with so much this year, that is not the case. But we hope that next year we'll be able to once again meet with you and shake your hands. Tonight, I just want to quickly go through and introduce who's here from our district, and then allow our representatives to introduce themselves if they would like to. And I'm hoping if Representative Harper, if that doesn't work, we'll hope that we're having a hard time hearing him. And so hopefully you'll be able to call in, or we'll just let everyone know who you are. So just to get us started, we have here with us tonight the Rio Rancho Public School Board. And the members of the board are myself. I'm President Amanda Galbraith. We also have Vice President Morgan here. And Secretary Scott, Noreen Scott, is with us. You can wave if you'd like to as I say your name if you're on camera. And Board Member Coleman will not be able to join us tonight, but we do also have Board Member Catherine Cullen here with us tonight. I know it seems kind of cheesy, but it's hard to know who everyone is. Also from our district staff, we have our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Visu Cleveland, here with us tonight, who will be presenting in just a moment. We also have Michael Baker, our Chief Operations Officer. We have Carl Leppelman, our Chief Academic Officer. Beth Pendergrass, who's our Chief Communications Officer. Lauren Hatch, our General Counsel. I'm not sure if her name it is, Renee Saucedo, who's our Secondary School Improvement Officer, and Janet Chenault, our Elementary School Improvement Officer. I'm not sure if they made it on with us tonight. Also, we have Chris Balzano here, who I'm sure many of you know Chris. He kind of is our voice for our district, and we appreciate all the work he does for us. And so now we'll move to the reason we're here tonight, which is to meet our representatives and to talk with you. And so Jason, or Representative Harper, is your microphone working? I'll give you an opportunity to introduce yourself if you would like. It is not working for us. We'll give you a few more minutes and we'll start. We'll come back to you, Representative Harper, and we'll go to Representative Damon Eli, if you would like to introduce yourself to us.
Hi, yes, I'm Damon Eli. I represent a big part of Northwest Albuquerque, South Corrales, and a tiny bit of Rio Rancho, the most important part of my district.
That's right.
I say that for all the districts.
That's right. Thank you, and thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it. We also have here with us tonight, we have two new people, which is Senator-elect Katie Duhigg. Senator-elect Duhigg, would you like to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hi. I also represent part of Northwest Albuquerque, and then a little bit of Southern Rio Rancho. And this is my first time in elected office, and I'm really excited to be meeting you all and to get to work with you. And I apologize, I'm going to have to actually jump off at 6:30. So if I can reach out to any of you later on to get what I've missed, I'd love to do so.
That sounds great. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We'll try to get into our business quickly. And we also have Representative-elect Joshua Hernandez, who was here with us. Go ahead, Representative Hernandez.
Hi, Amanda. I'm Joshua Hernandez. I am the representative-elect for District 60. Most of you know Tim Lewis's seat. I have some big shoes to fill, but I'm excited to work with all of you.
Thank you so much, Representative-elect Hernandez. We're excited to work with you as well. And I'm going to try Representative Harper one more time and see if no. Well, I'll tell you a little bit. Representative Harper, he actually represents part of my area where I live. He has a lot of, I believe, Enchanted Hills, Northern Rio Rancho. Is that correct? Northern Rio Rancho. And so we appreciate him being with us. He has done a lot of work with our school board in the past, and we are excited to work with him again for this next year. And so with that, is there anyone that I missed? I'll ask Beth really quick if she knows I missed anyone. Did I get everyone in there, Beth? Okay, thank you so much. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get into it. So hopefully everyone can hear our priorities. Dr. Sue Cleveland will be presenting our legislative priorities. And then after that, the board will have an opportunity to talk.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And I want to, again, congratulate you and tell you that we look forward to working with you. Some have done a really long time and others are brand new. But we certainly hope to work with you and to support you. And if there are things you need, please let us know. We ask a lot of you, but we try to also help you when you need that assistance. So again, congratulations. I know some of you are on a really tight timeline, so I'm going to get right to the priorities, and then the board will have an opportunity to add anything to that, and we'll answer any questions you might have. Probably one of the largest things for every school district in New Mexico this year is what our funding is going to look like, because our enrollment has been so erratic and different this year than it's ever been. And so all of the school districts in New Mexico, including Rio Rancho, are asking for a hold harmless in terms of enrollment for next year, because we hope those students will be coming back. We think they will be, and we need that funding to be able to open the door. And so I think that's the number one. There were a couple of things I would add about that is hold harmless, taking into consideration that we're probably facing double-digit increases in health insurance and possibly double-digit increases in retirement funding. So even just a straight hold harmless will leave us a little lower than we were the year before. So that's number one. The same thing holds true for transportation. As districts have slid in and out of transporting kids, the numbers are just not the same as they've been. But whether we're transporting 15 kids on a bus rather than 60, the costs are the same. The costs have been the same. The fuel costs the same. The driver costs the same. The tires cost the same. Everything has been, so even though we didn't have a full bus with a lot of students, we couldn't with social distancing. And so the numbers for transportation are definitely skewed this year as well. The certainly in instructional materials and textbooks, we've been through a really long history, the last 15 years in our state, some years being funded for instructional materials, other years not at all. And so the need to be able to provide materials, especially digital materials right now, as we're working in a remote world, need to be continued. And so that was one of the findings of the Yazzie Martinez lawsuit, was Judge Singleton found very clearly that instructional materials had not been provided to the children in New Mexico in general. And then she also specifically addressed the issue of certain populations that had not had access to materials that she believed they needed to have to be successful. We continue to ask for no new unfunded mandates. Our margin of discretionary income is not great, and so we are asking that anything that's passed, there be sufficient funding to pay for it. Really, our hopes right now are maintaining the funding we have. We're really struggling. We often have a lot of conversations with PED, and there's a lot of new ideas and new programs and new, and all of those are great things. But we need the basic program funded first before anything else happens. And then if we have money left over, then going to new programs and enrichment and those kinds of things are great. We're all for that. but we need to fund the electric bill, the salaries, just the basic budget first before we're going off into other areas. We have had a lot of costs related to COVID-19. Some of those are personal protective equipment. We've had a really interesting story. I won't tell you this evening, but we've had a really interesting story with filters and what we had to buy and what we didn't have to buy. And, you know, you have to buy this and we have to buy that. And then they come back and say, why in the world did you buy that? Well, because in this particular memo, you had instructed us to do that. So there were so many changes going on. And so these things just happen. But there are a lot of expenses. And as that continues on, we want to be sure those expenses are covered and are not taken away from other essential expenditures for school districts. We also have had in our state a couple of times where we have had our cash balances swept. And right now, we desperately need to hold on to those cash balances. Every district is different. Every district has different challenges. And the only way we're able to meet those challenges is to have that funding in the bank. And so we're not doing terribly poorly right now in terms of our cash reserves and our current funds. But you have to also realize that we've got 180 vacancies right now. And so when we have to refill those vacancies next year, we will need that revenue. And we have been able to manage pretty well with those vacancies because we've been working in a partially remote world and sometimes a totally remote world. And you can sometimes shift staff in a way that you can't when you're in in-person learning. But we will need to fill those positions to meet the state requirements for class numbers, to meet state requirements for a lot of other areas. So we just, you know, this is an unusual year, but taking the fund balances was detrimental to our school districts, to every single one in the state. And it pushed some into emergency, supplemental emergency money. It really hurt us. It took us as low as I think we've ever been in the school district's history. So we really hope that will not occur because that funding is needed and every district's needs are different in terms of where that money needs to go. The one of the really big issues, and I'm sure that you know there's going to be a lot of discussion, is that our at-risk students need to be able to have the resources necessary to obtain an equitable education and opportunities to prepare them for a college and career. And that was what the whole Yazzie Martinez lawsuit was about. That was the primary funding. Every child needed to have equal access in the state. One of the things that, you know, in that lawsuit, sometimes we kind of lost track of what that was all about. We were very much a part of that effort. And so I would just kind of summarize it by our position was every child in New Mexico was at risk. Every single child in New Mexico was at risk of not getting the education that they needed. There were some children that were more at risk than others. And those children were going to require, you know, some additional resources to be able to obtain the education that they need. We have seen that deficit just glaringly through the pandemic in terms of broadband access, in terms of accessibility. And a lot of people think that's just a rural issue. It was an issue for Rio Rancho. A lot of families didn't have access. A lot of families needed assistance. So it's just we need to be sure every child has the opportunity that they need, to be able to be successful. And then and I'm sorry, I'm running really fast, but I know some of you have got to go, so I sure want to get through these for you. We've had an awful lot of conversation over the last year. We've had all of our board involved in it. We've had a couple that have really taken a leadership role in what does social emotional learning look like, and how do we provide the support for our children We have a lot of mental health needs in our community. We have had 2 children take their lives in the school district. We have had one that we're not sure additional that may have. So we need to improve our safety net for children in the state. We really put a lot of time and effort into that. It's really a high priority for us, as it is, I think, for everyone in New Mexico right now. And then it's a small one, but it is an important one. There was a bill passed, the diabetes management bill, which was Senate Bill 48, we needed funding for the increased requirements for school districts. If you have a child that's diabetic that goes on any kind of a field trip, any kind of an extracurricular trip, you have to send a nurse with that child now, and you have to have someone to manage that child's health condition. And we're not opposed to that at all. We just would like the resources to be able to pay for it. And you have to have additional nurses do that because our nurses work all day. I can't pull one nurse out of a 2,600 student high school to go with one student on a high school trip. So we have to have an extra cadre of folks that we use, and we would like to see some additional support for it. But we certainly are willing to do it, and it's just a matter of finding the resources to do it. So I got through them very quickly. We've tried to keep them very, very short. We also, I would say that most of these are going to be the same priorities for all of the school districts in New Mexico, as we meet regularly, in fact, every week, sometimes twice a week, of all 89 superintendents. There seems to be a discussion among all districts, and been in communication quite a bit with Scott Elder. I know some of you represent a lot of APS. Most of these are very consistent with APS as well. But those are the priorities. I'd like to give the board a chance to make comments, President Galbraith, if they would like to add to my very quick presentation. But I'd also like to be able to give our delegation an opportunity to ask questions too, if they have any questions about it. So I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, we'll first go to the board and just give them a quick opportunity. Actually, before we do that, Senator-elect Duhigg, do you have any questions? I know that you have to get off, and so I would like to give you a quick opportunity to be able to ask a question if you do have one.
And you know what? I pushed my next meeting off, so
Okay.
So take your time.
Okay.
Feel free.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and go to the board, just if they have any comments they want to add to Dr. Cleveland's then, and we'll start with board member Catherine Cullen. I always like to surprise her and go backwards.
I know. Yeah, I was like, really, first? So thank you all. And a lot of these you probably already know about, and you've been hearing about it coming up with the session, but most definitely any new unfunded mandates, it's really hard to support that, to continue to provide services if we get the unfunded mandates. I've lived through the cash sweeps before, so that has been certainly a pretty big concern for most of the districts throughout the state. And so we really want to make sure that the state doesn't look at doing a cash sweep this time around. We definitely need to keep all of the cash that we have on reserve. And of course, transportation, I know a couple of you guys are new, but transportation has always been an issue for Rio Rancho. And I'm hoping that one day it'll get resolved, that we have enough funding for our transportation, but it is an ongoing situation that's been on since I've been on the board, and I've been on about 7.5 years now. And then, and I want to thank Chris. He's been working with this, and is Representative Harper still on? We might have lost him. Not sure, but the diabetes one is one that I kept bringing back forth, and I've talked to Representative Harper a couple of times about it. It just went through the rocket docket, and it's just another one that we didn't have to worry about it too much this year because of they didn't go on the field trips and all that. So we really don't know what's going to eventually cost us once we get all the kids back into school and they're having to go to these activities, of what it's going to cost for these, always having a nurse on any of these trips. So I appreciate all you guys coming out here and visiting with us. And I know that if there's any questions, Chris would be happy to, and Beth as well, be able to talk with you during the session. They're pretty active and able to get in touch with the district at any time if you have any questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Collin. We'll go up to Secretary Scott.
Yes, I first of all want to thank you so much for taking time to spend with us. I know that as we get closer to the session, it gets very hectic. One of the things I wanted to mention, especially to the newer legislators, is to be on the lookout for bills that sound good. They really sound like they're compassionate and are going to help people, but they have unintended consequences. And one of those bills that I'm hearing about is a bill kind of aimed at protecting equal rights and being certain that everyone is treated fairly. But unfortunately, it may open up to quite a bit of litigation in the way that it's written. And Damon, I'm thinking that perhaps you would have some background on that bill particularly. I'm concerned because it looks to be an opportunity to sue a teacher individually, or a coach individually, or a school district when you may have just one bad player. And those are the kinds of things. And Dr. Cleveland, you might want to weigh in a little bit on this one, but it's one of the bills that has those unintended consequences.
Did you want me to talk to that? I'm happy to if you want.
Yes, please.
So that's the civil rights bill. I have not seen it yet. I really haven't, and I'm not the sponsor of that bill. If I'm understanding what the commission recommended, it is to create a civil rights act that would not be negligence. So it wouldn't be like a coach or a teacher doing something that's even unreasonable. It would have to be a deliberate act. The standard is on civil rights legislation is deliberate indifference. That is a much stronger standard. I don't think that would change. The teachers or coaches themselves don't pay for it. I mean, I think probably you all know that. It's the government entity that would pay. I don't see that changing. And a lot of these lawsuits already happen in federal court. What this would do is move it to state court. I don't really know what impact it's going to have. I know that when there was a discussion on the floor, it was about eliminating qualified immunity in state law. But the interesting thing is, and Jason may remember this debate on the floor, I don't do any civil rights. So I'm a lawyer, but I don't do that kind of work. And so I was curious about that. It turns out there isn't qualified immunity in the state. So we're not getting rid of anything that exists. It doesn't exist in state law. But it would allow people to bring a civil rights claim, which I think they can already do in state court. What it really does, as I understand it, is it allows for punitive damages, which you can already sue for in federal court, and attorney's fees. So I don't really know what difference it's going to be, except kind of a venue change that you would be able to file in state court versus federal. But I know a lot of people are worried about personal exposure. I know that wasn't recommended, and I can't imagine anybody's going to be for that. And we'll have to see. But I haven't seen the bill yet. I really haven't. And once I see it, I can certainly report back to you. But I haven't seen it yet. Okay.
Thank you very much.
I know that's a complicated lawyer answer, but I have no other way to answer.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Secretary Scott, and thank you, Representative Eli, for answering that. We appreciate it. We'll go over to Vice President Morgan.
Yes, thank you, guys. Good evening. Again, I'll echo what the other board members were saying. We really appreciate your time. There's just a couple of things, and I'm just going to follow up. Dr. Cleveland mentioned it, and it's the second bullet point Board member Cullen talked about it as well with regard to student transportation. That's been a big piece for me. Really take that into consideration. And the fifth bullet point as well, continue to focus on ensuring that school districts receive the necessary funds to offset expenses caused as a result of COVID-19. And you could see the rest of the reading there. But those are the two things that I really want to make sure that you guys get after and speak on our behalf and represent us very well for those.
Thank you, Vice President Morgan. Oh, I can hear myself in your in your computer, Jeff. If you want to go ahead and remute yourself. It's always uncomfortable. And, and last, and we'll move on after this, I'm grateful for the board and for Dr. Cleveland for going over all of these things. When we talk about that, that hold harmless, my biggest concern, I think, as I think about this, is that I've talked to people around the state and families around the state, and there's a lot of kids who are leaving their schools. And so I think for sure for this next year, we need that hold harmless, but I think we also need to think about it maybe for at least one more year, just until we cycle some of those kids out, especially because I'm especially talking about juniors and seniors who have just decided to move on. And so I think it's going to take us, it's going to take us a while to bring our numbers up. But I think especially these next 2 years are going to be really critical on that. And then one last thing on that transportation, I think no child should have to be on a school bus for an hour. And that is what happens in our district. And it's because we just don't have the funding that we need. And that's what happens. And then we have parents who don't know where their children are, who are very upset and calling the district. And so this has been one of the first years that we haven't had that because we don't have all of our kids in school and we're able to take care of it. It would be great though if that happened every year, if we did not have parents calling us for weeks and weeks asking why their kids aren't home. And so that is really an important one that we need to make sure we get that transportation funded. And so I just wanted to highlight those two for myself. All of these things are important. We're going through just times that no one ever foresaw coming. And so I think all of these things reflect what we're in need of and what we're most in dire need of at this time. So with that, I'd like to go ahead. Dr. Cleveland, do you want to say anything before we go on to Melanie? And then we'll go to questions after Melanie talks, but I just want to give Dr. Cleveland a moment if she has something.
I would just add one thing, and everyone's talked about transportation. There's certainly, every one of these things are important. But what I guess I would stress the most is when you're $1 million short in transportation or more, that money comes right out of our children's classrooms. It takes away from them. And that's where the money comes from. And so you have a lot of districts in New Mexico that their transportation has been paid every single year. Some have had enough money, they could send some back to the state. I know of one district that bought all new tires for all their school buses last year because they had enough money to do that. And so the formula needs to be reworked and those expenses need to be paid. And my last comment is it was one of the findings of Yazzie Martinez lawsuit was transportation was to be paid. And last year we were assured finally it was going to be paid and it didn't get paid again. We're not the only district. Las Cruces has struggled with transportation. I believe now APS is struggling with transportation. It's one of those things that's kind of problematic. It's not real hard to figure out what it costs. So, why that's not been funded, I don't know. Some of our experienced legislators may have a better answer, but it's inequitable. And so some districts are getting it and some districts aren't. And we have not. So we would love to see that. But what I would like you to know is that some of that goes to transportation. But on the other side is it doesn't come out of the classroom. You're taken away from the children. So it is a really important thing for Rio Rancho. And it hasn't been a 1 year. As Catherine said, it's been a long, the board member Cullen said, it's been a long time since we've seen our transportation paid for. So again, thank you. I just wanted to add that, who gets harmed by it, and children are the ones that do. And in a district where we're one of the lowest funded districts in the state. Rio Rancho gets about the least money. Sometimes we're 89th, sometimes we're 80th, but we're never toward the top or the middle. that million means an awful lot to us. And so hope you'll keep your eye on that for us. We've been assured that this year it's going to get paid. I've been told that personally, but we'll see. We hope so. Hope so.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. So with that, we're going to go to our next portion, which is the capital outlay requests. Following Melanie Archibek's presentation, then we'll go to a question and answer and discussion time. So I hope you do have some questions and things that you would like to say, but we'll do those as soon as we're done with Melanie Archibek's presentation here. Go ahead, Melanie.
Good evening. Oh, thank you. Good evening. My name is Melanie Archibek. I'm the Executive Director of Facilities for Rio Rancho Public Schools. I'd like to quickly thank you all for being here and giving me the opportunity to present this to you. What we're asking for this year is HVAC retro commissioning. And I think for those of you 8-9 months ago that weren't quite familiar with HVAC systems, I think that we are now. I think the main takeaway that I think we've all learned in the intent is just the importance of air circulation and your HVAC systems working to being completely fully operational. We have a number of bond projects that have been kicked off and will be starting construction this summer. So that's fantastic. But we have other schools that need some attention to their HVAC systems. The main thing that we want to do is make sure that they're functioning to their full extent that they can, considering their age. And so retro commissioning will allow us to do that. It's a thorough analysis where they will look into every component of it and give us improvements of what we can do to make sure that it's functioning properly. The reason why this is quite important is the air circulation, and even pre-COVID times, is extremely important to filter out that air. And so we're looking at really optimal levels of health and safety for our staff, students, and community. So this will allow us to take care of the buildings that are not currently being addressed by the bond projects, aren't the new projects that we just completed. So it's the remaining schools that would need attention. Are there any questions, any specific questions on this? I have it currently broken down by elementary and secondary. All of our middle schools have already been taken care of by recent projects or current bond projects that we're working on.
Thank you, Melanie. Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. And we can go through more questions. Dr. Cleveland, did you want to add anything to Melanie's presentation?
Yeah, I would just two things. Obviously, safety is a big issue right now, and HVAC is on everybody's mind. I don't want you to think this is all of our needs. It doesn't come close to all of our needs, but we also are respectful that money is going to be very tight this year, and we're asked to keep our requests to a minimum, and so that's what we did, and this is what we presented to the board. But these are really important. If we can get these funded, it would really be helpful in terms of ventilation and safety in the buildings. But it isn't all our needs, not even close. But these are our most urgent ones right now.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Cleveland. And so with that, we're open for any questions, discussion that you would like to have with us. What I might do is just, and it's okay if you don't have anything that you want to say, but I think I'll probably just call on each representative or senator just to keep it somewhat organized. Sometimes it's easier to go through that way, but please don't feel pressed to feel like you have to add anything. I'm going to try again with Representative Harper. How is your microphone?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
All right, good. I was not going to let any computer program get the best of me. So, all right. So I want to first thank Dr. Cleveland, the board, and all of the staff. We all know this has just been a wild year. No one expected that this would really last the entire year. I mean, I had some premonitions, if we really were going to flatten the curve, it would take a year or more to get a vaccine. I think some of us had premonitions along those lines. But I just want to thank you for the amazing work that you've done this year. And especially with regards to the elementary school kids. So my youngest is in 5th grade. He goes to Vista Grande Elementary. And I tell you, it was a godsend to have him be able to go to school 2 days a week. And that made a huge difference. Um, he, uh, he has some minor issues, just paying attention and those kinds of things, typical 5th grade boy. And just being able to go to school twice a week made such a huge difference. So I want to thank Dr. Cleveland, the board, all of you, wonderful staff, for kind of going out on a limb. There weren't many districts in the state that did that. But I've talked with several family friends. My wife has talked with all her lady friends, and it just makes such a huge difference for those elementary school kids to be there. So I really want to thank you. That was a ton of work, I know, and really hard and a risk. But I can personally say for my family, it made a huge difference. So thank you very much for that. I guess the capital outlay requests I feel are very reasonable in the requested amount of dollars. If we have capital outlay dollars this year, I think that's something that we can all partner together and make happen. I don't think that's a problem. Regarding the transportation funding, I guess I'm a little surprised to hear you haven't gotten that yet, because when I talked with LFC staff, many moons ago, they said that they would take care of it with kind of a one-time special appropriation and then study it during this next interim and build it into the budget. That changed, but it sounds like that didn't happen. Okay, so I'll circle back with Charles Salee and just see what happened there. So that's all I have. Thank you for the great presentation. I do miss seeing you all in person and enjoying some good barbecue, but
Thank you so much, Representative Hartford. Okay, and we'll go to Representative Damon Eli, if you'd like to say anything.
Well, that's too bad, because I was really hoping I could speak for Representative Harper. So he was muted and I would have been able to talk for him. So yeah, I mean, he and I agree. I mean, and I would tell Jason, if there's any way I can help him on the transportation stuff, I'll do it. Frankly, if this was a few weeks ago, the first things out of my mouth would have been, guys, there isn't going to be any capital outlay money and we're done. I mean, we're going to be putting that to plug holes. I don't think that's true. I'm with Jason that I think that may happen. And we may have money. And it looks like, I don't know this for sure, but it looks like we may have a flat budget, which would be excellent news if, as opposed to what I was thinking, which was going to be very significant cuts. I know Jason knows a lot about that, and I'm hopeful. I really am. So I think we can work together. I don't think there'll be any sweeps and I don't want there to be. That's a longer story, but the bottom line is the state is in much better fiscal shape than I would have expected even a month ago. And so as we go into the session, I'm much more hopeful. So I think we can all work together. And I have to say that as we're getting to the kind of the end of the pandemic, it's becoming clear that to the extent schools stayed open, that was a big deal. And so I really applaud you guys for doing that, because that turned out in hindsight to be the one decision that the entities disagreed on. But when they kept their schools open, that was a game changer. So congrats on that. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. It's been a hard year trying to keep all those, trying to get that open. So we appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, Senator-elect Katie Duhigg. I can't hear you, Senator Duhigg. Let's see. We just switched our microphone problems to, unless it's me. Are you hearing her and I'm not hearing her? We're going to give you a moment. I'll go down to Representative Hernandez, and we'll see if we can get your microphone working in the meantime. Go ahead, Representative-elect Hernandez.
Hopefully you guys can hear me. I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I want to reiterate what Jason said. Although I don't have children of my own, all of our friends with children, elementary school aged, were ecstatic, both the parents and the students, just that they could go to school for a couple of days a week. So I can't thank you guys enough for that. And I look forward to working with you guys over the next couple of years, and let's see what we can do.
Thank you, Representative Hernandez. We're super excited to work with you too, so thank you. And then we'll go back up to Senator Duhigg. Let's see.
Hopefully it worked. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Good, good. I apologize to Representative-elect Hernandez. I missed what you said, but I agree very much with what Representative Harper and Representative Eli had said. You guys are doing an amazing job under the worst of circumstances. And I have a first grader who's at APS, and I can't tell you how much I would have loved to have been in Representative Harper's position and had him able to be in the classroom at all this year. But yes, I think the hold harmless is absolutely essential. I'm really shocked to hear about these transportation issues. I had no idea that students in Rio Rancho were spending an hour on a bus. And if there's anything I can do to help get that resolved, I'm happy to do so. But overall, I just want to applaud you guys. Throughout the state, you have done the most with the least. And it's really impressive. And I look forward to working with you in the session. And I too am cautiously optimistic that we will actually have money to deal with these things, and look forward to working with the entire Rio Rancho delegation to get your capital outlay funded.
Thank you so much, Senator. We are excited to work with you too. So welcome. And I'll just go real quick back to the board. Is there anyone from the board, anything else that you wanted to add in? Go ahead, Board Member Cullen.
Hi, I just was wondering in reference to the mental and behavioral health. I know we've kind of talked about it for a number of years. Are you, and I see Representative Harper kind of shaking his head, are we going to be seeing anything out at this session? I know it's going to be a very tough session, but certainly with the COVID and students not being able to attend school across the state, and middle school and high school, definitely, we're seeing a lot of mental health issues. Are we going to be seeing anything coming out of this session in reference to that?
So I can take a stab at what I know. Representative Eli may know other things. I know that I personally will be carrying a bill and invite anyone who wants to work with me that will hopefully fix that loophole that the Cleveland shooter fell into, that because he was underaged and deemed unfit for trial, that he was essentially released, that he could not receive any treatment because the law did not require him to receive any treatment. So I've worked with the mother of the intended victim. I've worked with the lawyers involved and Ledge Counsel Service to draft what I think is a pretty good piece of legislation that would fix that. The other thing that we've talked a lot about this last year was your students that really have huge behavioral health issues, and how to get them some fast-tracked help. I'll say not much progress has been made legislatively in that area, and I think part of the problem is that there wasn't any school this year, so there just wasn't, that intense need to give teachers relief. Was kind of taken off the fire because we didn't have school this year. So I'm hoping we can get some more motivation and effort behind that for the following session. Those are the two that I'm aware of personally. I imagine that there will be other legislators that are carrying bills addressing mental health, but I haven't heard of any. I don't know if Representative Eli, if you've heard of anything in addition.
I only know that things are coming, but I really have not. I see lists of people's aspirational bills, but I haven't seen the bills themselves. So that's why when people were asking about the Civil Rights Commission, I had to go back to the commission's report rather than a bill. Part of the problem with the pandemic has been, and I don't know that Jason's run into this problem, but I think he has, because we all have, is the staff at the legislature is really slowed down. They just can't get to it, and so it's really a problem. I mean, I'm the rules chair in the House side. I actually just wrote Jason a note saying I was wrong about a rule, and so we've been working double time on trying to figure out a way of balancing the rights of the minority with the majority, having the public participate without actually being in the building, and so I've kind of been locked down on that. So I don't know as much about bills, but I won't see them as a practical matter until the beginning of the year. So I don't know, but I'd be shocked if there weren't more bills around mental health in schools. It would shock me if there wasn't, but I haven't seen them. I don't know.
Chris Balzano, did you have, I could see you were like shaking your head like, yeah. I don't know if you wanted to have a chance just to say something.
Yeah, I just want to say that during the Human Services Committees, they did have discussions related to school districts reporting increase in suicidal by students and support on behavior mental health. The discussion is, okay, do we do a bill or do we make an appropriation under the PD where school districts can decide locally what to do with the fund? I had a few legislators from the same committee reach out to me, including also Chairman Romero of the House Education, asking, hey, what's the best way to do this? Do we do this through a form of junior bill where school districts can say, hey, we have a program, can you fund us? Or do we do this through the appropriation? So there is a discussion, but again, with what Representative Harper and Representative Eli is saying, we don't have any bills. We don't have if you're not working on a bill with a sponsor and know for sure that the bill is being drafted, there is nothing yet up there. I can take a look and see. I can talk to Representative Debbie Armstrong and Senator Chisipino and try to get from them if there are any legislatures that are planning to sponsor a bill upcoming session. But I agree, we probably will see a bill. It's just a matter of time when it comes up and becomes a public right, and we have access to that. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Catherine, did you have anything else you wanted to bring up? No? Anyone else on the board want to add anything? And then Dr. Cleveland, I wanted to give you another opportunity if you would like another opportunity.
Just thank you to everyone, and we do look forward to working with you. And if you need information, if there are things you want us to get to you, we will do that. Chris is your best bet to get to quickly, and he will make sure that gets back to you. I do want to say a positive, some positive things about Chris. He's really efficient, really effective. He'll get back to you if you need his assistance, and so appreciate his work. On the return to school, just a couple of quick things I would like you to know. One is we do have a new testing requirement that is maybe problematic, but we're trying to work with the secretary on that right now so that it will not delay our reopening. We do not have any kind of information yet about secondary return, and until we have the secondary toolkit, we're not able really to start planning for that. We certainly have done some planning, and we're hearing the ratio might be 1 to 10. I would want you to know if it's 1 to 10, that's probably just one day for high school, middle school students, and you divide up the staff and the students. So, 1 to 15 works a whole lot better if you're looking at the 2 days. In terms of elementary, I want to again share that our K through 3 went 4 days a week. And so we were able to serve them 4 days a week, and our 4th and 5th were 2 days a week. And that came down to the social distancing and the number of students allowed in the school facilities. So that's why we're really watching the secondary very carefully to see how many students we would be able to get back into the building. So we are committed. We're hopeful that we'll be able to get our secondary students back in the second semester. But there are a lot of things that have to happen before we're allowed to do that. So we're planning. It's kind of a shot in the dark because we don't know exactly yet what that's going to look like. But we do really hope. We're hearing from our secondary parents a lot. Their kids need to come back to school, and we're very committed to making that happen if we're given the latitude to be able to do that. So and we hope we're already working to be a partner in the vaccination, offering our building, our services to make that happen. And so the school district's already in communication with the city, the county, and others on how we might help facilitate that process when it becomes available. And so again, just thank you so much for listening, and please do not hesitate to reach out if you need things. We will do our very best to help and support you as well.
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. And so unless there's anything else from our representatives or senator, we appreciate you so much for coming out tonight. We know you are so busy. Many of you just went through an election process, which is something I never would really like to do again. And we know it's rough. And it's also a crazy time of the year. So we appreciate you taking an hour to spend with us and letting us get to know you better and getting to know us better. And please keep that communication open. Our schools drive so much of what happens in our communities. And so I think if we can keep that really good communication, we can create great schools for our children and then great community members. So thank you again for coming out. We appreciate it. And with that, I don't know if I should adjourn it, but this meeting is done. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out tonight.
Everyone.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.